On December 13th, 2024, Axel Schuster, the CEO of the Vancouver Whitecaps, announced the Whitecaps owners would be selling the club. Schuster assured the fans that the new owners would be thoroughly vetted. They were looking for owners with the same dedication to progress and development. But Vancouver fans immediately thought back to the Vancouver Grizzlies, the expansion team that entered the NBA at the same time as the Toronto Raptors. After 6 years, the Grizzlies were sold to Michael Heisley, who moved the franchise to Memphis, Tennessee. They became, and still are, the Memphis Grizzlies. Who will the new owners be? And will the Whitecaps stay in Vancouver, or will they move to another city? First, what will the price be? Last year, Forbes magazine valued the club at $420 million. The Whitecaps do not own their own stadium or real estate holdings, so that price is just for the organization and the franchise license to play in Major League Soccer, the MLS. That same year, San Diego bought a franchise license from the MLS for $500 million. That's just the franchise fee. No team, no organization, no stadium. If you want to play in the MLS, it's a $500 million ticket. San Diego will compete in the 2025 season. So the Whitecaps price will probably be over $500 million. You can think of prospective owners in 3 groups. Local Canadian owners who grew up with the Whitecaps, want to keep the team in Vancouver, and want what's best for the club and Canadian soccer. Overseas owners with a lot of money who want the prestige of owning a soccer football club. They could keep the team in Vancouver, but they would be happy moving the team to a big city in the U.S. And U.S. owners that specifically want an MLS team. They may want to keep the Caps in Vancouver, but most would be happier moving the team to the U.S. If you look at overseas owners first, here's the top 50 prices for clubs worldwide. For around the same price tag as the Whitecaps, $500 million, you could buy Eintracht Frankfurt in the German Bundesliga, Atalanta in the Italian Serie A, or Aston Villa in the English Premier League. And for a little more money, you could buy Benfica in Portugal, Napoli in Italy, or Newcastle United in England. These European teams have a longer, more storied history, and if you are an overseas prestige buyer, you would probably buy one of those clubs before the Whitecaps.
Stop being a Euro snob.
For U.S. owners, there are many U.S. cities that want an MLS team. And rather than paying the $500 million MLS expansion fee and going through the approval process imposed by the MLS, they could short-circuit the system and simply buy the Whitecaps, fire everybody they don't want, and move the franchise to their city. Since the Whitecaps don't own their own stadium or property, the move would be relatively easy. These cities include Las Vegas, Detroit FC, and Sacramento Republic. Now for local Canadian owners. Why would a local Canadian buy the Vancouver Whitecaps? Yes, it's Vancouver's team with a 50-year history, but also, if you really want to develop Canadian players, the Whitecaps organization is much, much more than the first team. On the men's side, the Whitecaps too are the up-and-coming younger players under contract. They play in the MLS Next Pro League. They are like a farm team in hockey. There's also a boys' academy where local young prospects can finish their schooling, but also train and develop their soccer football skills. They compete under the Whitecaps banner against adult players in League One BC. On the women's side, the Vancouver Rise is set to compete in the upcoming Canadian Northern Super League, but this team will not be part of the sale and will continue to be owned and guided by the current Whitecaps ownership. And similar to the boys, there is a Vancouver Whitecaps FC Girls Elite Academy, where young players can complete their schooling while developing their skills. The girls also play in Women's League One BC under the Whitecaps banner. Besides these teams, the Whitecaps are associated with many, many youth teams all across Canada. The academies have produced many professional players, including current Canadian national team players Sam Adekube, Theo Bair, Nico Seeger, Jivan Badwell, and of course, Alfonso Davies. On the women's side, it's a virtual who's who of the national team. Canadian soccer could definitely survive the Whitecaps' first team moving to the U.S., but losing the development teams would be a serious blow to the program. So, who are some prospective local owners? Canadian actor and Vancouverite Ryan Reynolds bought the Welsh club Wrexham with Rob McElhenney, but the price tag for Wrexham was $2.5 million. Not even close to the $500 million for the Whitecaps. So Reynolds is out unless he has some friends with deep pockets. Both the Vancouver Canucks owners, the Aquilinis, and the BC Lions owner, Amar Doman, have said they are not interested. The BC Business Magazine suggested Ryan Beattie with Tom Gagliardi, owner of the Dallas Stars and Kamloops Blazers hockey teams, are candidates. They also mentioned TELUS executive Darren Entwistle, but I can't see that happening. Local prospective owners that have a spare $500 million and love and support Canadian soccer are few and far between. Knowing this, I want to give a shout out to the current owners and all the work they did. Greg Kerfert is a BC native and has been an owner since 2002. He is an executive at Seagate, one of the big two companies that make computer hard drives. For the move to the MLS, Kerfoot brought in 3 people to raise the $35 million fee. Fellow Seagate executive CEO Steve Luxo, who is also a partner in the Boston Celtics NBA team. Victoria native Steve Mallet, who was a founder and chief operating officer at Yahoo and minor shareholder of the San Francisco Giants in Major League Baseball, and co-owner Steve Nash, Victoria native, 2-time NBA Most Valuable Player, and co-owner of Mallorca in Spain. That's the team Kyle Larin plays for. These owners had enough money to finance the Whitecaps' move to the MLS and seemed to deeply care about the development of Canadian soccer. So, thank you, gentlemen, for all your work and support, and well done. As you can probably tell, I'm not optimistic about the Caps staying in Vancouver. I think they will go to the States. As a consolation, I hope they go to the Sacramento Republic because I have a soft spot for that team. I would be gutted if there was a Las Vegas Whitecaps and the Vancouver Whitecaps name was dead forever. So I hope that if the owners sell the franchise rights to an American owner, that they keep the Whitecaps naming rights. Then, with a small chunk of the $470 million profit from the sale, they put a Vancouver Whitecaps team in the Canadian Premier League. So could the Caps adapt to a league change?